If you're on this journey of change and you have your plans laid out, you know exactly who you want to become, and you went to bed confident in the direction you were moving, and then you woke up the next morning and everything within you was fighting to stay the same. That moment's not random, it's resistance. And if that sounds like you, then you're in the right place, and this video is for you. Hey folks, this is Ken, and this is Life Moves with Ken. This is that channel for men who are done drifting and ready to move with intention. So let's get into it. Now here's what's happening. When you decide to raise your standards, you're not just changing behavior, you're attempting to change your identity. But here's the thing. Your brain is wired to resist change and preserve whatever is familiar. So your brain is looking for patterns that feel safe, even when they're limiting you. So even though you may desire change, a part of your brain is signaling to you that change creates discomfort. And in some cases, your brain signals that change equals danger. Disrupting a pattern that's been running for years becomes really easy when we have concrete steps to follow. So remember, the brain works well when patterns exist. And so this means if we want to overcome the resistance that we have, we need to create new structures and patterns for our brain to follow. One of the greatest pieces of brain research I learned as I was preparing this is that I don't need motivation to overcome resistance. Oh my gosh, that was so freeing, because some days with the work that I do, I don't have the motivation. And if you're anything like me, you know that there could be a squad of cheerleaders right outside your door and you'd still be sitting there not moving towards your goal. That's the way I am. So if you don't remember anything else I say, please remember, we don't overcome resistance with motivation. We overcome resistance with structure. So I've shared before that I'm in the process of writing a novel. And so I know the whole story. I've had the idea for a bunch of years, but my life has been structured around writing for classes when I was a teacher, and even writing for church now that I'm a pastor. So I write sermons, I'm writing Bible study lessons. I'm always writing something. And I have this very specific approach to my week, but I want to finish the novel. So I have this structure in place. And what I found was that just wanting to do and write the novel meant nothing. I looked at my weekly schedule and put it on the calendar and thought that that would be enough. I put in, write the novel on this day. And then to my surprise, I found that I would get to that moment of writing and I would turn the TV on, and then I would pull out my headphones, and then I would put on music, and then I would go get food, and then I would get ready to write. And I would never get to it, or at least it would take me a long time to get to it. And that's what resistance looks like. So let's talk through what I do now so that I can overcome the resistance. And if you take these 3 simple steps, I think that it'll be of benefit to you, and you'll find that resistance is decreased and your ability to accomplish your goals are increased. So here's the first step. The moment I feel that internal drag, you know what that is, I name it. I identify to myself what's actually going on. I tell myself, oh, this is my brain resisting this new effort. And so I know that when I'm writing, I have to put in 2 to 3 hours. And so that acknowledgement brings clarity and creates separation between the emotion that I'm feeling when it's time for me to start writing. And so what I tell myself when I sit down is that, that feeling to grab my phone, that feeling to turn the TV on just so there can be soft music in the background, that feeling to delay what I'm wanting to do, that's my brain resisting my normal schedule. And so once I name it, I gain control of it in that moment. And so if you could just name it, you'd be able to tell yourself, I'm experiencing resistance. It's not my identity struggling. It's my brain trying to keep me in a pattern that I've had for a long time. And so there's this one Bible verse that I love. It's Romans 12:2, and it deals with this idea of not conforming to the patterns of the world, but being transformed through a renewed mind. Wow, brain science in the Bible. Yeah. And so the idea is that you and I can't change simply because we write down affirmations on our computer. No, what we need is new thinking patterns. And the first thing we have to do is identify that the old pattern is trying to keep me hostage. The old pattern is trying to hold me in a state that I've been following for a long time. So step 1, I have to identify that I'm in a moment of resistance. But then here's another step. Step number 2, what I do is I lower the barrier to starting without changing the standard. In the last video, we talked about standards and we talked about a certain level that becomes the lowest level of effort. So here's what we do in this moment. What I do is I identify this is the smallest step that I need to take. We've talked about this before, but again, I want to remind us that when we take the small step, the first step, that baby step, then I'm able to identify where I can get started. And once I get started and I identify the steps to getting started, then I'm much more likely to accomplish the next step and the next step and the next step. So here's how it looks. If the plan was a full workout, don't think about the full workout because your brain will resist that move. Think about the first step, putting your shoes on. I say it almost every week. Just put your shoes on. If the goal was writing for an hour, I can't think about the whole hour. So what I have to do is think about, let me write the first sentence, let me write the first paragraph, or let me just write the first scene. So after I write the first scene, then the next step is that I edit the scene. Then the next step is that I outline the next scene. Then the next step is I stop until my next writing moment. I have very systematic steps in place that help me to understand what is my lowest and easiest step that I can make so that I can get to the next step. And what this does for my brain is it helps me to start and to know what to do next. It's kind of this set of minimal steps which get me into the process. And by getting into the process, I reduce resistance. So step 2 is create the list of steps, the baby steps to follow when resistance is present. And so it's in effect you creating a roadmap through resistance, and you identify the steps to take in that moment. So what you're able to do is bypass any other option that you have. I get to the let's start writing. And so I want to again highlight that none of these connect with feelings and emotions. These steps are what I follow to move beyond what my brain is emotionally pulling me through. So the first thing I do is I acknowledge that I'm in a moment of resistance. And then the second thing that I do is I give myself the step to get into the process of what I'm trying to do. And then maybe the next 2 to 3 steps so that I can begin movement instead of being frozen by the resistance that I have. All right, I hope that makes sense. And so let's look at this third step, and I think that you'll find that this is exactly what you need. So the third step is the idea that I brought up in a video or two ago, and I just want to redefine it and help you to understand it. It's called defining the floor. That's number 3, just define your floor. So what is the floor? The floor is nothing more than the bare minimum that you'll do to consider your action complete. So when I'm writing, I'll give you that example. When I'm writing, I know that if I write one scene, it's going to be about 800 to 1200 words. I know what I'm writing. I know the structure that I'm writing in. So each scene is about 800 to 1200 words. And so the least I ever write is one scene. That's my floor. And so I know that if I've been in a writing moment, when I write the one scene, then I can consider myself having come to kind of a sense of completion in terms of the writing process. There's editing that I need to do, and there's some other minor things that I need to do, but at least I've generated the word count that I need to finish that scene. So often when I have more time, I may be able to knock out another scene, sometimes a third scene, but the bare minimum, my floor, is the one scene. So in order for me to complete my novel, this is the mental structure that I've created, and I follow that pattern. Each week, I have a writing day. And so on that day, when I pull out the computer, I know before I sit down that my floor is one scene. My floor is about 800 to 1200 words. When I reach that moment, then I can feel a sense of completion. So what I'm doing is really, I'm pre-programming my brain for what's coming next. And it gives me a sense of ease because I know what to expect and the exact amount of writing that I need to do. So when you decide your floor, it eliminates the emotional roller coaster because you know the destination before you begin. And guess what? Most men fail because they decide their standards in an emotional moment. That's the mistake. You have to decide your floor in advance. And while your ceiling may fluctuate, your floor absolutely cannot. That's the standard. And so you set the minimum and then you move from there. So you're wondering, why does this matter? Here's the reason that it matters, because the new version of you will feel unnatural, Of course, it's something new. It's going to feel uncomfortable and it may even feel forced because, and to be honest, that's to be expected. If higher standards feel heavier than you imagine, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means that you're transitioning. Remember, we're being transformed. We're being made new, and transitions are uncomfortable. And so resistance is not proof you should stop. It's proof that you're disrupting the old version of yourself. So don't panic when resistance shows up. Don't overanalyze it, and surely don't negotiate with it. Follow the steps. Step 1, name it. Step 2, reduce the entry point by defining the small steps that you need to follow just to get into your process. And then step 3, define your floor. Guess what? If you do that consistently, resistance will lose its influence. And when resistance loses its influence, identity begins to change. This is how becoming actually happens. And I'd love to know what you're working on and what your floor is for your goal. Drop it in the chat and let's connect. If any of this resonated with you and you can see yourself changing through these steps, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. Join the group of men who are making life moves and becoming who we always were designed to be, one step at a time. As always, I love you, and remember, you're not starting over, you're just starting from here. I'm Ken, and this has been Life Moves with Ken. I'll see you next time. Bye.